運が悪かったんだよ、お前らは。
And so it begins. We're officially doing it. This and Metal Gear are the two that I'm like, man, these would be fun to do Let's Plays of, but man, are they really cutscene heavy? So we'll see how it goes. So I'm very pointedly and intentionally starting with Yakuza Kiwami. And I do have a couple of reasons for that, to be sure. Beyond mere convenience, the first reason is that my emulator for my PS2, I'm not confident enough to start recording off of it yet. And this is on the PS4, so it's there to be used for this purpose. The other thing is, I frankly do feel like this game kind of invalidates the existence of the original game. Like, is now the original game is now irrelevant. You don't have to play the original game anymore because Kiwami exists. Now Kiwami's got its own problems to it, but I feel it is farther on the scale of remakes to Spyro Reignited than it is Resident Evil 3, if that makes any sense, right? On the scale of remakes, we've got Resident Evil 3 on one end, which is a complete, almost in name only, like, brand new game, but with Jill, Valentine, and Nemesis in it. And we got Spyro Reignited, which, like, pretty much just rotoscopes the original PlayStation game, but with new graphics. This is much closer to the Spyro Reignited end of that scale, so personally, I feel like there's no real problem with starting with this game as your very first Yakuza game. Because, frankly, it's rough. It's rough going back to the original PS2 game. It's unreasonable to expect people to have to buy a PS2 or have a computer capable of emulating a PS2 in order to play it, and it's just not fun anymore. This game is perfectly fine as a replacement for Yakuza 1 on the PS2. I think if you have a chance to play Yakuza 1 on the PS2, it's worth playing just to see how far the series came, but I think this is the game to start with if you have never played the Yakuza games before and you want to get in on it. I'm very pointedly not starting with Yakuza 0, because I think that's a terrible game to start the series with. We will get to Yakuza 0 when we're meant to get to it. I'm going to be trying to go through these games in release order, which means Yakuza 1, Yakuza 2. I'm just going to use the Kiwami games to supplement for the reasons I just said. We'll get to the minor foibles in and about and with Yakuza Kiwami 2 when we get there. But for the time being, that's my plan. Yakuza 1, 2, and then so on. Through the entire series, to the best of my ability. I don't know if I plan on doing Fist of the North Star and Judgment yet. We'll kind of see. Those aren't really Yakuza games, so we'll see when we get there. Speaking of not really being Yakuza games, in Japan, the series is called Ryuga Gotoku, or Ryuga Gotoku, however you want to fucking pronounce it. Which translates literally into like a dragon. And frankly, I'm fine with the fact that they changed the name when they released it in English, because Like a Dragon is a title that does not really work for an English audience. That's not a title that really, you know, rolls off the tongue for an English-speaking audience very well. There are unspoken implications and connotations to a title like Ryuga Gotoku in Japanese that just don't communicate when you translate it literally word for word like that. So I'm fine that they changed the name to something that would be more natural in English, and I think Yakuza is a fine title to go with. But I do think the reason we might not have gotten some of the spin-off games is because they went, well, the series is called Yakuza, but there's no Yakuza in this game. What do we do? So, we'll get there when we get there, but I'm pretty much going to use Yakuza and Ryuga Gotoku as interchangeable titles as we go through.
すみません、本当。こんな取り立てに出張ってもらうなんて。
気にするなって言ったろ、シンジ。
はい。
That's another reason I don't mind starting with Kiwami 1 instead of the original PS2 game, is because, man, that English dub. Ya boy. Lieutenant Advisor of the Dojima family.
どこの奴らなんだ、その取り立ての相手は。
すぐ近くの町金です。もともとは他の組から金借りてたんです。ところが金利すらまともに払わねえ。で、手に負えなくなっちまってうちに債権回収の依頼が。
そうなんか。で、いくら回収するんだ。
2億です。取り半って約束になってますから、うちには1億入ってきます。
そりゃ気合入るな。よし、行くか。
I'm gonna try and not do quite so much talking during the cutscenes unless I have, you know, something to say.
お前相変わらずそっちの遊びにハマってんのか
Swap outfits.
兄貴もたまにはどうです？いい店紹介しますよ。
It is going to be a little bit front-loaded at the beginning here, of course. So there are definitely foibles with starting out with Yakuza Kiwami 1 as, like, the first game you start with, because you do have to confront the reality that this game was more or less made as a sequel to Yakuza 0, more so than it was made as a remake for Yakuza 1. But it is still a remake of the Yakuza 1, so I think it's fine, but there are little issues that I will admit that make it not quite so perfect. I think you're kind of ending up compromising either way, whether you're starting out with the original PS2 game or with Kiwami. The nice thing about talking over the cutscenes is it's all in Japanese, so you're reading the subtitles anyway, so you're not really missing out on all that much over me talking over it. It's not like you understood what they were saying anyway. It does create this, kind of weird feeling if you start out with Yakuza 1, Yakuza Kiwami, and then go to Yakuza Kiwami 2, and then go to Yakuza 3 Remastered. You're kind of going, like, across 3 different generations of the Yakuza series doing that. But if you can put that aside, I think this is a perfectly fine game to start your introduction to the series with. And I do not think that of Yakuza 0. We'll talk about that when we get there. So taking a look at Kiryu here, who the original games insistently translated using the subtitles to say everyone was calling him Kazuma. Even that's one of the worst things I hate with localization, which is the subtitles say something, but you can clearly hear the characters are not saying that. So the subtitles would say Kazuma, even though the voice actors were saying Kiryu. And you can visually see the difference between what they're saying and what the subtitles say. I think in this game, this is the best Kiryu has ever looked. I especially like the detail of the pin for the Dojima family on his lapel there. Don't get used to seeing that. But this is probably the best character model they've made for Kiryu. The one in Kiwami 2 is pretty good, but let's be honest, it's the exact same character model as the one they made for Yakuza 6. So it's not quite so sculpted to perfection as I think this one really is, because it's very visually different compared to Oh, Stepford sisters can't get around us here.
それにさあ行く着きました兄貴ここの5階です
よし入ろう
あんたら
夜遅くに悪いな堂島組の桐生だ
いやまさか桐生さんが直々に
要件は昨日うちの若いのが伝えたはずだ
明日まで待ってくださいお願いします
夜逃げの準備しながら言われても説得力がねえなそれにできねえ約束はするもんじゃねえ
すみませんでもそこをなんとか
おいいい加減にしろや
殺すんですか
何
堂島組っていや回収や殺しばかりやってるところじゃないですか金払えない奴は見せしめにされるみんなそう言いますよ
あのなそんなの金払わねえ奴らがあることないこと言ってるだけだ
金は払えないって言ってんだならやるしかねえだろうがよ
I do like that this is pretty much one of, if not the only time we ever really see Kiryu getting to... Yeah, I love that little symbol. We ever really get to see Kiryu being a legit Yakuza thug. So, this is a New Game Plus run of the game. As you can see, I've got the Amon sunglasses. I've got all of the, I've got the Demon Fire Dagger and the Pummel Bat. And we can't open it up yet, but I do have the full unlocked Dragon style. And all of my completion stuff carries over. That's mostly just for the sake of my convenience. I am still gonna try and... Wait. Why do I have this on? I don't know why that's on. Maybe that's just on by default and I never noticed. Weird option. I am going to do all of the games with the New Game Plus, with the complete unlocks and all that. That's just mostly for the sake of my convenience. We are still gonna try and aim for doing all of the sub-stories. It's not gonna be exactly 100% full, 100% playthroughs, just because you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea how ridiculous. Look at that. Look, it's no. A full 100% playthrough is excessive to the point of ridiculousness. But I do like starting out with the full, like, sweep of abilities and moves that you get. If you want, like, a challenge playthrough on extra hard, new game, no health upgrades, like, no heart pieces, if you want that, you can find it somewhere else. It's not really the kind of playthrough that interests me.
兄貴、ありがとうございました。でも、これでついに気流組の立ち上げですね。風間のおやすさんも言ってました。兄貴になら安心して組任せられるって。
まだ決まったわけじゃない。あんまりはしゃぐなよ。
はい。そういえば、この後セレナで錦のおじきと会うんですよね。今日は裏口からしか入れないみたいですよ。天下一通りの小道入って奥の階段2階です。
分かってる。
俺、しばらく札の連中が来ないように。
Bitch, I know how to get into the bar.
半分の1億円は後で依頼先に俺が届けておきます。安心してください。
ああ、頼んだぞ。
So since this is a new game plus, that does mean I am starting out with the full dragon style unlocked. That's gonna definitely mitigate one of this game's biggest problems, which we'll get to once it starts becoming a factor. But rest assured, the full dragon style being unlocked was the result of a lot of grinding. And I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to do a shitload of grinding during these playthroughs.
何やってん俺。おお、お前どこの組のもんや。
すまん。
すまんで済むか、ボケ。
Excuse you? No. Fuck you. I'll never be able to get that first game's dub out of my head. The other reason I like playing a New Game Plus with the full dragon style is because, frankly, that's a close emulation, as close an emulation as you can get to the original game. I kind of am not super big on, the game will start explaining it once we actually get to the main game. Once we get into it, but I don't like that the game kind of just steals and reuses Yakuza 0's combat system.
お久しぶりです。真島の兄さん。
Majima. Did you notice how he said Majima no Nissan? Which is like way more verbiage than what the subtitle actually said.
お前組立ち上げるって話やないかい。そうや。そこの店やったな。お前の馴染みがいるっちゅう。
I'm gonna have a lot to say about like Japanese honorific pronouns and stuff like that as we go through, rest assured.
一度あんな女こましてみたいってね。それよりこのアホどないしようか。すみません。まさか桐生さんと。
いや、いいんだ。
甘いな、桐生ちゃん。甘々や。けじめはしっかりつけんと。まだまだ行くで。
Stupid fucking motherfucker.
何よ。
その辺で。
お前のためにやっとんのやろが。
もう十分ですから。
ほう。ま、ええわ。
One of the things about this game is they did add new scenes into the game as part of the remake nature. So this is a scene that was not in the original PlayStation 2 game. it was added as a new scene, and you can really tell. Look at their lips, look at the way their mouths are moving in this scene compared to a scene that's in the original game. You can see the articulation of their lip movements is very different.
兄さんとここで喧嘩をする理由はありません。筋が通らね
よっしゃ、これで俺と喧嘩する理由はできたな。
俺が兄さんをムカつかせたんなら謝ります。
なんやと？根性あんねやったら殴り返してくけ。
これで気は済みましたか？
その強がり、どこまで続くかの。
Look at his hand vibrating around the knife.
アホくさ。筋通すなんぞ言うて無理しとるだけやないか。痩せ我慢ちゅうやつや。世の中筋の通らんことばっかりや。そんな意地張っとったら体が持たんで。
どう取ってもらっても構いません。ですが俺は自分の考えを変えるつもりはありません。
何があってもか？
ええ。
わかったわ。ほな、お前のその覚悟見届けさせてもらうで。四六時中ずーっとね。
My eye on you.
でももし筋が通っとったら俺との喧嘩買うてくれるか？よ
その時になってみないと。
っしゃ。ほな、どないしてお前をマジにしたるか早速作戦会議せな。行くでお前ら。
Frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of most of the newly added scenes, because I don't think they really add anything. Again, this is one of those, this feels more like a sequel to Yakuza 0 than it does so much a remake to Yakuza 1 issues. It feels more like fan service, having, oh, here's a big new scene with Majima in it,
大丈夫なんか。
more so than something that actually contributes to the story. There are going to be scenes that are added that I do think are good additions that do contribute to the story and do supplement not things the original game was lacking, but do inform and add to the experience of the original game. Scenes like that, I wouldn't really say are one of them. So look at the mouth movements in this scene. You'll see the difference.
レイナ、ユミは。
You see how much less articulate the lips are?
どうせまた腹減ったとか言い出すんでしょ。
違いね。どうなんだ、気流組の立ち上げは。
The way they remade this game, I actually find really interesting to think
組
about.
長が決めることだ。
組長も嫌とは言えねえよ。風間の親父がもうその気なんだ。堂島組はあの人になって
Again,
るようなもんだ
consider
からな。
Spyro Reignited, which basically rotoscoped the entire original PS2 game and the PS1 game, and then just retextured it with updated graphics. I think that's more or less what they did with this. I think they took the same rigging that they had for the original PS2 game and just completely retextured it with next-gen graphics. I find that really impressive, actually. I'm not sure how they did it. I'm assuming they held on to the source code, but in this industry, you never know. Oh, sorry, I'm talking over a dramatic explanation of Nishiki's personal motivations.
あ、来てたのね。
ユミ。
ちょっと、もう酔ってるの？私も入れなさい。
どうぞご遠慮なく。
ごめんね。
So this, for example, is a new scene that was added for the remake that was not in the original.
ごめんね。
おい俺らだってお客さんだぞ。
Jealous.
ごめんごめん。最近よく来てくれるお客さんなの。いつものでいい？
おう。
I wonder what Kiryu's usual drink is. Yeah, back in the 90s when you could just toke up.
例のしのぎ。うまくいきそうか？
え？ああ、裏カジノか。イカさまよって硬いから金をむしるのはどうも性に合わねえっつうか。
何言ってんだ。自分の組持てるかどうかの正念場だぞ。ここでドーンと稼げば間違いなしだ。堂島組内桐生組。天下の登場界の三次団体だ。迷ってんじゃねえよ。
俺は一応射程頭補佐だぞ。今でも十分立派なもんだろうが。
相変わらずだなお前は。射程頭補佐だなんて名ばかり。邪険にされることもねえが、かといって出世の本筋でもねえっつう微妙な立ち位置だ。そんなお前が風間のおやっさんの後押しでようやく掴んだチャンスなんだ。死に物狂いで物にしなかったら意味ねえぞ。このまま行ったら一生飼い殺しだ。
So I do like this scene. Again, it's not making up exactly for any kind of deficit from the original game, but it does inform certain aspects of the original game in context with the rest of the series. This scene's establishing that Kiryu, even though he is slated to get his own family, he's not really ambitious. He doesn't really care whether or not he, like, rises the ranks of the Yakuza organization. He's really just being pushed into that position mostly due to Kazama, who will establish is their father figure and a very influential member of their organization. Whereas Nishiki is very ambitious and driven to rise the ranks and ascend as far as he can go, but maybe doesn't necessarily quite have the ability to back that up. But it does show his fatalistic outlook almost. That you either gotta be your first or your last, basically, as far as Nishiki is concerned. Whereas Kiryu, not really quite so much with the ambition, but he does get pushed into a higher position purely based on his own natural ability and talent. He gets promoted based on merit, even though he doesn't want to be promoted. Nishiki doesn't have a lot of merit, but he wants to be promoted. The eternal conundrum.
ねえ、それじゃあ指輪なんてどう？
え？指輪か。
いいんじゃねえの。さすがレイナ、無難なチョイスだ。
それはどうも。
It also informs more with the relationship between Kiryu and Nishiki and Yumi before the bad times happen. In the original game, you really just had that one scene where they all met up and had that little drinking montage, and then that was it. That's all the setup you get. With this, we get a little bit more
女の
investment.
好みなんてさっぱりわからね
もうしょうがないわね。あ、それじゃああれなんてどう？
え。あれって、
フランスの有名なブランドの指輪なんてどう？新作が出たばっかりなんだけど、女の子にすごく人気なのよ。この前ユミちゃんと一緒に雑誌見てたら、彼女も欲しいって言ってたわ。
ほう、
ねえ、それにしてみたら？
そうだな。よし、それにしよう。